This PowerPoint will cover, or this recording, I should say, will cover Chapter 1 of your textbook, Adolescents with Disabilities. Whew, adolescence. It's just a scary age, right? For some people. I was always a preschool, early childhood, early elementary teacher. So this whole thought of working with adolescents is a little scary to me. But so chapter 1 talks about how secondary schools differ from elementary schools. And if you took 761 with me in the summer, there was an option about this, right? When we did that discussion board post, I think it was module E, talking about how the demands for secondary students differ than for elementary students. So, if you chose that one, you all were kind of right on target. But we really need to think about secondary schools, how different they are just in terms of how they're organized, right? It's a lot of moving around. It's a lot of going from this class to the next class to the next class to the next class, right? There's a lot more academic and social demands, right? I mean, think back to your days in middle school and high school. Maybe you were at the popular table for lunch, maybe you weren't. So think about our students, adolescents in general, but our students with disabilities. They're going to have a lot of social demands on them, and some of them might not know how to successfully navigate those demands. And then the curriculum itself, it's a lot more challenging, right? Those of you who selected Module E in 761, you all pointed that out that, it's a lot harder to do ninth grade math than it was to do second grade math. So the demands are just a lot different for these students. They're really kind of testing, and I know some of you are parents, and I know some of you are parents of adolescents. So you might be sitting there saying, yup, 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 right? They're really testing their independence versus how much they still want and need to be dependent on you. They have a lot of changes going on, a lot of peer pressure. Typically in high school, what is student, well, and even before middle school, what is their pressure to do? Drink, go to parties, make bad choices in general, right? Self-consciousness, students are becoming more aware of what's going on with them in a variety of ways, right? So their intellectual development, right? We want to make sure that we are engaging this population, especially not only the age, again, but also those with disabilities. Because otherwise, what's going to happen? They'll get bored, right? They won't be curious about things. They'll get bored. They'll act out. 718, we're looking at a case study about Matt, I think is his name, who has ADHD. So what about some of these students? What are they going to do if they are not interested in what you're talking about? If you're a math teacher, they're gonna say, why is this relevant? Why do I need to know that? So there's a lot going on here. Active learning, I don't know what this means, use and active learning. I think it was supposed to have something else beyond it, but it doesn't. But again, thinking about how you can use active learning. How can you get your students to be as active and engaged as possible? Them sitting there listening to a lecture is not going to go real well with this age group, right? And again, I know a lot of you are currently in middle and high school, so think about what you do. Think about what the teachers around you do and how you try to engage your students. Again, physical development, right? There's a lot of changing happening at this point. Their bodies are changing, their posture's changing, their voices are changing sometimes. Their skin goes bad for some of them. There's a lot of maturing, there's a lot of growth, there's all these things going on that they have to try to figure out, well, what do I do with all of this? So then there's also moral and ethical development. Are your students going to be questioning religious beliefs? Well, maybe, maybe not, but they're going to start to think about, why am I here? Why are we here? What's going on? So that's really a time where you could take advantage and say, hey, let's have some moral and ethical discussions. Let's talk about this. You know what I mean? Not for you to say, oh, you must do it this way, you must do it this way, but really exposing them to what the real world is like, right? That's going to fall on those of you who end up teaching middle and high school. So adolescents, again, this is kind of will be our theme, right? There's same problems and issues as adolescents without disabilities, right? So our adolescents in general are going to have the same problems, right? Just by the fact of being a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old or a 13-year-old, whatever. So then you add in the problems and the additional challenges. I don't really like that word problems, but these PowerPoints, by the way, are from the publisher. Okay, so I did not come up with them, but I'm just doing a little voiceover. But add in that added challenge of a disability or more than one disabilities. You know, ADHD, a learning disability, maybe they have an intellectual disability, maybe they have autism, right? So all this, it makes it very, very challenging to be an adolescent with a disability. You thought I was going to say to be a teacher of adolescents with disabilities, right? Well, that's challenging too. But think about how challenging it must be for these kiddos. Okay, we have about approximately 2 million children in the US, adolescents who experience disabilities. So some common characteristics, we've talked about these, especially if you took 761. Again, we've talked about some of these characteristics. Attention, right? Their attention span might be even shorter than that of a typical, and I use that word in quotes, uh, adolescent, memory, self-monitoring, you know, and especially as they're getting into high school and they might have to say, oh, I have 4 minutes to get from point A to point B, you know, from this class to this class. That does not mean I can stop and socialize with my friends or that I can go on my phone or whatever, right? So think about that, going back to their attention. They're on their phones constantly, right? So how are you going to get their attention and get them engaged? They also, again, probably some of them have poor self-concept. Thinking about adolescents in general who might have poor self-concepts. And then again, you add on that challenge of having a disability and being labeled and identified as having a disability. Okay, so just quickly, some of the disability categories that you know, that you may see intellectual disabilities. This is formerly known as mental retardation. Please do not use this term anymore. It is very offensive, right? Especially the R word. If you hear that, please be an advocate for any individual you know who, or you know, even if you don't know them, who has an intellectual disability, and make sure you are encouraging. I do that, you know, people my age that I hang out with have used the R word in front of me, and I said, you can't use that word, you know, and I try to explain why. So please, this is a soapbox of mine. Please make sure that you are using the correct terminology and that anyone around you, especially students, are using the correct terminology. It's typically, you know, low IQ score, 70 or below. 100 is about average for an IQ score. Deficits in adaptive behavior, kind of that independent learning, stuff like that, is a challenge for students with intellectual disabilities. The categories: mild, moderate, severe. This is I think they have changed. Have they not? Now I'm going to confuse this. This was from 2012, but I really thought they had changed the categories. So just maybe they didn't. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe I'm thinking of autism. So just keep this in mind. If your students have intellectual disabilities, they're probably going to be mild to moderate. Okay, those are the two most common categories. Maybe I'm wrong. You know me. Sometimes I just confuse myself. So some educational considerations for these students. You know, as we'll see as we go out throughout our textbook, they might learn at a different or slower rate. They might need really direct instruction, which, by the way, is beneficial for all students, not just students with disabilities, even though it's always kind of thought of as oh, that's a special ed instructional technique. No, really, it's just good instruction. Another soapbox, don't get me started. Concrete learning, especially as they get older. How can you bring in concrete learning? You know, in math, it's pretty, you can do it, right? It's pretty easy, but thinking about science, social studies, stuff like that. These students are probably also going to have some language problems and some social skills deficits. Okay, then we have learning disabilities. This is our most common disability category. So this is where, you know, students tend to have an average-ish IQ, but their learning and their academic performance is not commensurate with their ability. So they have an average IQ. You would expect them to perform kind of average, right? Average, maybe a little below, maybe a little below, or a little, I think I combined some words there, above or below. But students with learning disabilities, they're performing significantly below their ability. And I think we had in 761, I think we had a case study about Sharon, perhaps, who was in, you know, third grade, fourth grade, but was reading on a first grade level, something like that. That's a learning disability. No identifiable cause. We think the cause is some kind of neurological dysfunction. characteristics. Again, a lot of the same stuff that we've already talked about, metacognition, thinking about how they learn and how they think, right? Some of that is very challenging for these students. Study skills, and they probably lack those study skills. They probably lack those organizational skills. So they might struggle. They might struggle to problem solve. All of these things are some typical characteristics. Behavior and learning and emotional disorders. These are really difficult to identify and define, right? Especially, and I'm sorry for the males in the class, but especially middle school, high school boys, right? And younger too. And it just happens that they tend to happen to be boys, right? Who sometimes they just make questionable choices, and it's hard to tell, are they, quote, just being a boy, or do they actually have a behavioral or emotional disorder? Okay, so they're really hard to identify, difficult to assess, because guess what? All adolescents experience behavior and emotional issues, right? So this is where you want to look at, okay, is this student having more significant, more constant, more frequent behavior and emotional issues? Girls tend to be more on the emotional side, right? More tears, more kind of inner struggle, inner conflict, whereas boys tend to be more outward with their behavior, right? So again, hard to assess. So for that one, the IDEA definition: unexplained learning problems, problems with relationships, inappropriate behaviors or feelings under normal circumstances, unhappiness, depression. Again, where does it go from just being a teenager to being a teenager who has an actual emotional or behavioral disorder, right? That is, it's just hard to pinpoint. Some interventions for basically all of these ones that we've kind of talked about so far: the intellectual, learning, and emotional behavioral disabilities or disorders focus on behavioral interventions. Again, that's why we're going to look at, oh, he just needs some classroom discipline, or whatever that assignment is called. Classroom management, again, how can you change the environment? How can you control the environment? How can you make it a more positive and inviting and engaging environment? And we'll see some of that as we go out along this semester. Social skills instruction, and also maybe some peer supports, right? Some quote typical peers. Okay, autism spectrum disorders. We have a lot more students identified with autism spectrum disorders now. We actually just like 2 days ago got approved to start offering our undergrad program focusing on autism spectrum disorders. So, which is really exciting. But you know, the number of students, people being identified with ASD now has significantly increased over the years. It might start out as kind of a developmental disability. That's what they might be labeled as first, maybe not, and then move to autism. They will experience verbal and nonverbal communication issues, social interaction problems, and it typically appears before age 3. Although I have heard of adults getting diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders. Low incidence disabilities, we're not really going to talk about this semester. This is for mild and moderate or high incidence disabilities. Again, there are multiple phrases that are used to describe, you know, the autism, intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, and emotional behavioral disabilities, which, if you notice, that's why you're taking all of those courses, right? You have a course about intellectual disabilities. You have a course about learning disabilities. You have a course about autism and developmental disabilities. That's why, right? Those are the ones you're going to see more frequently. So some of these other ones, some of the other health impairments, physical impairments, orthopedic impairments, those are ones that you probably will not be serving in a mild to moderate classroom. Including things like cerebral palsy, right? That might be a student in a wheelchair with some of these challenges that, again, you might not, or you will not come out of this program being specifically trained to work with these students. Okay, so we're focusing again more on the mild to moderate. There's also traumatic brain injury. You know, this could happen. You see it a lot in falls and sporting accidents, horsing accidents. So that might include physical sensory issues, paralysis, coordination problems, behavior, stuff like that. Again, these students are typically not necessarily served in the classroom where you're going to be. Okay, so that is it for chapter 1. Again, just kind of an overall introduction about just poor adolescents in general, and then adolescents with disabilities. Okay, so that's chapter 1. I will be back for chapter 2.